doesn't have my camera. I gotta turn on my camera. We're live.
My thing says off air.
It says live.
How are you guys? Go. It's a little delay. Yes. Okay. Welcome to this special edition of Latinas Chat Media. There is always stuff going down in the entertainment world. Can you hear me?
Somebody has to turn the volume. Somebody has to turn the volume down on the YouTube channel.
Okay.
I don't have it on.
Okay. So it sounds okay now. How's everybody?
Yeah, you sound good too.
Okay. So we're gonna dive right into it because there's always stuff going on in the entertainment world that we can dissect politically. But you know, when we come to you at nighttime, is because we're chomping at the bit to talk about something really important, very serious topic tonight. Nate Parker and Lena Dunham, and we're just presuming that you're watching us, you already know what it's all about. We're going to dive right into it because we want to end in an hour because we're hoping that you guys will, at 9:30, go somewhere and settle down and support either Ava DuVernay's Queen Sugar or Donald Glover's Atlanta. So we want to end at 9:30 so you can do that. So let's jump right into Nate Parker real quickly. Creator of a film that was getting a lot of buzz about Nat Turner called Birth of a Nation. When 17-year-old rape allegations came back to, hurt his film. So we want to talk about this, about what do we do when things like this happen. He's been put out there as kind of like this trailblazing filmmaker wanting to do radical things on race, and then you find out that he stood trial, he was acquitted for rape along with his co-writer Jean Celestin. And it's coming back 17 years later. Mm-hmm. And this has a lot of folks really conflicted because, like, do we support this film or don't we? Mm-hmm. So, Sierra, I'm going to start with you. Have you made a decision whether you're going to go see Birth of a Nation or not, and why?
That's a good question. So I haven't made the decision yet. I'm leaning towards going to see the film. I do not think that is going to impede on my feminism by just going to see the film. I think that a lot of the conversation that has happened since the allegations became public have been very thoughtful and part of moving the conversation forward about rape culture and what we're doing regarding rape culture. But the film itself is not just Nate Parker. The film is every other actor that worked on it, everyone who worked on producing it, everyone who participated in it as a piece of art. And I've been struggling even as far back as like networks pulling Cosby and syndication off. Like, I've been struggling with punishing other artists who happen to have worked on this project. And the project alone, though it benefits him, also, does something for the other actors that are on it. So I think I'm likely going to see the film. What I might do, well, I don't know. I hope I don't get arrested for this, but maybe I'll like pirate it or something like that. Can I say that on the internet?
Say that on the internet, Siri.
So that someone can come and get me. I've been watching Mr. Robot and I'm all freaked out about society right now. Sorry. In any case, that might be a way to watch it without contributing financially to it. And I don't know, maybe, I don't know. But no, I mean, I think that, I want to let you guys speak as well, but I think that for me, it's really tricky with the artistic projects because there's so many other people involved who would also hurt from boycotts of the film, and should they be punished for something that Nate Parker did 17 years for that he has, I guess, or is trying to make some amends for now.
I'm really interested in to see what Gabrielle Union does when the film comes out. Like, will she promote it? Will she be there? Because, that's definitely one perspective that if folks have not read yet, actress Gabrielle Union is in the film. Yep. She is a rape survivor. She is an anti-rape advocate. She's been very open about that for many, many years. And she wrote a very poignant open letter where she's just very openly struggling. She's in this film.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it's a must read.
Yeah.
Everyone should
Yeah.
read. There've been a lot of really wonderful
Yeah.
pieces in regard to this. So,
I'll
but
try
right
to
now
link
you're
some.
leaning towards watching, but you're trying to find a way to watch it without putting money in his pocket. Is that
Something like that. Something like that. You know,
have
'cause
your cake and eat it too.
well,
Okay.
because that's also part of it, right? The other part of it when we support these films financially is we are now giving money to someone that maybe we are saying as a community is not a pillar of our community or is not someone that we want to patron in that way, right? So I don't know. I don't know. It could turn out that the movie gets released and I'm so busy at the time. It's not even a question, right? But I'm not sure. But I would like to see it for myself. I think the story is one that, you know, like many people when the trailer first came out and when it was received so well at Sundance, and one of many people that I think that it's a story that needed to be told. So, you know, it's a shame that that story is now tarnished with this other issue. Yeah, sorry. Other people.
Okay. Yeah. Where are you on this, Maria?
It's funny. I'm still totally undecided. I struggle with it because on the one hand, and I think we've talked about this before, you know, if he was acquitted, then what we're saying is I don't believe in our justice system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the acquittal means nothing because I'm going to try him in the court of public opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I personally do feel he's a rapist.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do? So do I then turn my back to the entire conversation around rape, saying that, you know, the overwhelming number of rape accusations are not false, they're actually true, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if anything, we're contributing to more women being believed to be liars when they do come forward, because we're choosing to say, no, it's okay, I'm going to go with what this judge says, even though I know it's against what I believe. And then there's a point that Siri made about, it's a collaborative work of art in which many people contributed in good faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's an important message at an important time for a community that's under barrage. Mm-hmm. And can you afford to have any piece of work that speaks to those movements vilified in any way? I don't know.
You're still undecided.
I'm still undecided.
What about you,
He's a rapist, though. I'm not undecided about that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you definitely think he's a rapist, but you're still undecided about whether you're going to see this film. What about you, Linda?
Okay, so I'm streaming live right now on Facebook, so I'm going to turn this off. And people can join us. I'm still live. Join us on YouTube. The link is on my page, guys. So I definitely going to see the movie. I think the movie is an important movie. Dude, I have seen Woody Allen movies and supported stuff. And look at what he turned out. And it's not that, I don't take what happened seriously. I'm very conflicted about how important this film is and what he did. And the person he's become. I have not made a decision about, I'm conflicted with that still, with, the actual, but I will definitely see the movie. I'm sure it's going to be great, and I think we should support it.
I guess I'm the lone wolf here. And you all make really compelling points. This is very complex. But and I hadn't thought about all the other artists who were involved. So I really do particularly appreciate, Siri, you're saying that, because that's not something I thought about at all. And God knows there's a lot to think about because it's so layered. There's so much going on here. The reason why right now, and I'm not saying that this is can't change, but right now I strongly will not go support this film, is even with all the various things that are brought up that are compelling. He was acquitted, and he seems, after an initial censoring of himself and being defensive, he seems to be getting it right. In his latest interview with Brittany Daniel for Ebony, he seems like he's really listening to a lot of people who are really informing him and educating him and challenging him and pushing him. And the one thing though that keeps me from going to see it right now is that there can't be redemption without accountability. And when I read how he talks, even with the most evolved latest interview where he seems to have really been reflective and really starting to think about toxic masculinity and male privilege and starting to think about these things and taking it seriously, there can't be redemption without accountability. And he is talking around what happened. Now, there might be a reason for that legally.
Right, legally.
There might be. But the bottom line is that I want to forgive. I want people to be able to evolve. I want people to be able to grow. But he says that he made a mistake without naming what the mistake is. And that is a problem for me. I cannot get past that. And especially when I know that I don't have to see this movie if I want to learn about Nat Turner. And that's what's really, really difficult for me. So you want to have redemption without accountability, then where do we go? So maybe he's getting there. But he's not there yet for me, and because he's not there for me, I can't support the film. I think the person for me who really nailed where I stood was Kimberly Foster from For Harriet. She did a wonderful video where she I mean, everything she said, I was just like cosign. And she talked about restorative justice. I'm more than willing for Nate Parker and Jean Celestine, who hasn't said squat, right? So that's also another thing that's giving me pause. I'm all open for restorative justice and to make this right. But you can't make it right if you're not even willing to admit what you did. So he says he made a mistake. He's talking about the person he was, what he didn't know when he was 19, and how he was different, and how he realizes that a lot of his behavior was problematic without ever naming what he did. And I know that's going to be difficult for him to do, but I think I need him. Now need him to do that.
What I think, if I can jump in, what I think is very unique and important about this particular case is that we're watching him go through the motions very publicly, right? In a way that I don't know that anyone else has done, to even give the kind of interview that he gave for Ebony, to even acknowledge certain things, even though he hasn't necessarily named it as rape, and even though there are other ways that he could be accountable outside of the justice system, that he hasn't been, right? We haven't seen this before. We haven't seen a man grapple with a rape accusation in this kind of public way and start to take a step back and say, where did I go wrong? So for me, I'm not saying that that's enough, but that for me, that was huge. It was huge that he is allowing himself to be center stage on this issue. I was in conversation with a friend of mine not too long ago, like, I would love to hear him go even further than that. I would love to see him really make this a cause that's important to him and not limit it to him just speaking with his children or him giving this interview this one time. What I would love to see is those next steps. Like, so how can I bring this conversation forward? Part of the problem, and I think this is what we've been discussing so much over the last couple of years in terms of rape culture, that this stuff is so normalized, people don't have a name for it. And, somebody may not like what I'm about to say, but for Nate Parker, this is the same as sometimes where we confront a white person about racism and they're like, what are you talking about? I didn't do that, right? I don't think it's clicking in. This is not a justification. I'm not Nate Parker's lawyer or his advocate, so I just want to be clear with everyone about that. But this is, I think, part of the process of breaking down that toxic masculinity that he, has been entrenched in, right? I think I could be wrong. So while I don't think it's the only solution, I agree with you with that, Sophia. I do want to say, for me at least, it's a first step, because I haven't seen other men talk about it this way. And my hope is that men do start talking about it this way. One of the other things that I think it has really pushed into the light, and I think some of you guys have already shared this, is really breaking down what consent means, right? So this whole incident is changing and shaping the way that we are now talking about what does consent mean? What does that look like from party A, from party B? We've been sort of, moving around the no means no, but we haven't been talking about implied, informed, active, all these sort of different levels of consent. That's what a court is actually looking at, right? A court is looking at consent in these very sort of like defined thing. So anyway, I wanted to put a few of those things out there, for us to continue talking about.
Well, I'm going to jump in if you don't mind, because it's funny. As you were talking, I was getting more and more incensed. Not at you.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Number one, I'm not going to give him a pat on the back for coming forward and talking about it, because that's the work of activists. I think laying the groundwork so that people have to be held accountable. And I don't know that if he hadn't been brought under scrutiny, for whatever reason that was, that he would be as forthcoming and woe is me, and let me reflect, if that hadn't been the case. So you having your feet to the fire because of the work that activists have done over decades to break down rape culture I'm not going to give him a pass on that one. And that's totally not accountability, as Sophia pointed out. And furthermore, the fact that we're going to such great friggin' lengths to figure out what's in his mind. Does his heart feel bad? What's going on? Should we support him? And the friggin' woman is dead and has no voice and no vote in this? Nah.
Yeah, but we gotta be careful. I'm sorry, we gotta be careful with the suicide thing, because we don't know. We don't. That's her brother's assumption that her suicide was a result of the stress of this rape. We don't know that for sure. And the rape, yes, but the suicide, I'm personally not comfortable linking those two things when I don't know.
Well, the only reason why I'm not comfortable with the suicide being a factor is because even though it's a really tragic thing, and I think we need to talk about that's the impact of rape for a lot of people. There is, even if we don't know if that's what's going on there, we do know that people who survive violence, are more susceptible to suicide ideation. The reason why I want it makes me uncomfortable is because the fact that she was raped should be enough. If she was alive today, that should be enough. So even though her suicide is tragic, I don't want the suicide to be another, that just gives it another layer of import. Even if she was still alive and out there trying to live her life, and she was raped, and that should be enough. That's the only reason why for me, and that's what I mean when I say the suicide is irrelevant in that way. I don't. Just the fact that she was raped is enough. We titled this. It's always tough to do titles when we talk about such deep things, and we don't always know. We have outlines of things we want to say, but we don't always know where these conversations are going to go. So it's not always easy to title our chats. But we call this about Hollywood's role in our rape problem. So I want so it's not, because this is not about saying that Nate Parker's at the root of anything, or that he's the cause of anything. But we want to talk so what I want to do is I want to broaden the conversation, because what I want to put out there is how much in our entertainment media, rape is a plot point and romanticized. And my understanding, I could be wrong, is that Nate Parker even has in this movie a rape that apparently didn't exist, because it's supposed to be a historical film, and that's actually the role that Gabrielle Union plays in this thing. So that's interesting. But here's what I want to put out here every time this stuff comes up around: do we support? Do we, can we separate the artist from the person? And this is a conversation that always comes up when it's Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, Roman Polanski. And here's what I want to say specifically for us as people of color. This is what I always say, you know, especially, you know, as a Black woman, is like Black genius is not scarce.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Okay, I think she froze.
Does that
guess what? There's always going to be much more wonderful music where he came from. If we shut down Bill Cosby and we don't watch his show, guess what? There's a lot of other groundbreaking comedic geniuses, you know, in the Black community. We don't have to. So I always get a little bit like, we have to support these folks because they're so good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I really like want to push back against, because it's kind of like an internalized oppression to act like our creative genius is so scarce and it's so limited. It's limitless. So that really bugs me when we use that as an excuse. Not that anybody here did, but it's part of the conversation that people make.
I agree.
Sorry, can I squeeze in?
One last thing I wanted to say, because I just saw Tyler Perry's Temptation the other night, and it just irks me how often he has rape in his fucking movies, and they're always about punishing women who, you know, who think they're too good for the quote unquote good guy. So, you know, Hollywood does have a rape. As liberal as Hollywood likes to present itself, Hollywood does have a rape problem with
but
the
he
way.
was sexually molested, wasn't he? Wasn't he also?
But I think so. But this is going to come up in the Lena Dunham situation, right? Because as a survivor of that assault, I just feel that Tyler Perry needs to work that out somewhere else. I understand that as an artist, you're going to bring your issues to your art, but in one movie, he's not the only one who does it. I'm just talking about him in particular because of the impact that he has, you know, in communities of color. You know, there's a lot of folks, even Black folk and folks outside the Black community, who love his stuff. And there is just one movie after the other where rape is a punishment for a woman for not loving the right man, for thinking that she's too good. It's always a comeuppance, and that's it's put out there as a more and that perpetuates rape culture, and that's a problem. So like folks are like, it just irks me. His popularity irks me when he does that.
Yeah. Can I shit? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to pick up quickly another point that, for me, is part of the Hollywood problem with rape culture, is that the fact that we go to such great lengths to wonder if a Woody Allen is worth, you know, hating, if a Bill Cosby worth hating, if a Nate Parker's worth hating. I personally think that's how it leads to a Brock Turner. That's how we got to that point where all of a sudden we normalize the fact that we can pick and choose who gets vilified for rape and who doesn't. And that's my biggest issue, is that all of a sudden, if we don't have a blanket sentiment that extends across the moment the word rape is uttered and you have enough credible evidence or personal instinct, that should be the end of the conversation. You know, we can have a separate conversation about, okay, this rapist created this piece of art, can I support the piece of art? But in terms of supporting the artist, no. It's fruit of a poison tree. You're a putrid, you know, rotting garbage dump. I don't have to quantify you at all. You may have created a beautiful art, and we can talk about the art separately, but I no longer have to in any way find any redemption in the artist. That's my personal opinion. Because I honestly do think that's how we get Brock Turners. It's Nate Parker for the African American community, and it's Brock Turner for the swimming community, and it's this one for the Rutgers football community. Where do we draw the line? Where does it stop? Where do you hear the word rape and go, you are now a condemnable human being?
I just want to cut in and say something really quick. There's a book called Cunt by Inga Muscio, where she spends a whole chapter devoted to rape and rape culture. And one of the things that she talks about is the fact that rape is so present in so much of our media and so much of our entertainment. You know, and she talked about getting up and walking out of movies, right? When that rape scene starts, you know, we know it's coming, we know what it looks like, and boycotting films that actively show, you know, these kinds of scenes as a way to, quote, entertain, and aren't really being shown to either shed light or, you know, bring awareness to a particular issue. So I think you're right. I think, Sophia, you started on this, and, you know, and then with Maria continuing, like, you know, this has become normalized in our society. We know it exists, but we're sort of like implicitly okay with it when we're watching movies or TV shows that show it gratuitously, and there's never a conversation about why that's happening, about, you know, any kind of wrongness in terms of what are the images that we're being asked, that we're asking people to digest and say, oh, okay, this happened, right?
And just because, you know, to balance, like, amplifying media that, you know, that we think nails it. If no one has watched the independent movie Descent with Rosario Dawson, you must, because not only does that film deal with the psychology of the aftermath of rape, it actually has a really interesting intersectional race and class angle to it. And if anybody questions that Rosario can act, you need to watch this film. And she also was a co-producer. So I would love to see her produce some more, because when she's behind the camera, she gets behind some meaty, important topics. And it's a very difficult film to watch. And yet it's a film that I think people need to watch. And I just thought of it now because we're talking about, because I don't want to say that we don't have media that doesn't doesn't depict rape, because rape is real. On the rug does not, but we want folks to treat it with the seriousness that it warrants. Which is, and how are we on time right now?
We are at 9 o'clock.
We are at 9 o'clock, so we're good. Okay, so yeah, that's, I mean, you know, so. Okay,
can we go back to something you were saying?
Yes. Go, Linda.
I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Go, Linda.
Tell me what in the Tyler Perry movie was specifically a problem, a scene, or the way he's depicting this character. Because
this is more than one movie that he does this, but this is the latest one that I saw.
Because I know that a lot of women follow him and trust him. And I know he may not say it the way it should be said or written the way it should be written, but is it a possibility that women, his audience, isn't thinking in the terms that you may be thinking, and they're not?
Then that's what bugs me.
No, but what I'm saying is that everything is needed in time. So maybe this is their way of, even though to you it may be a dangerous thing, or it's not something that, you know, is done as well as you'd like it to be done, but maybe those women need it now.
I don't know what the message is.
I'm just playing devil's advocate because I don't understand why so many women love him. They adore him and they trust him.
I think, well, part of it is his view of these topics are very black and white, and he's very moralistic. And I think his movies are comforting to people who want things to be very simple. You behave this way and you will get the good man. Well, behave this way and you will suffer. And people want stuff, and people want this stuff spelled out in very clear terms, and that's what he gives you. But his terms are really, really problematic, because in multiple films he has had women who are assertive, who are professional, who are educated, get their comeuppance through violence, including rape. And in the movie that I just saw the other night, Temptation, with Journey Smollett, she is raped by this guy that he's supposed to be this kind of like black Mark Zuckerberg, and then he rapes her on a private jet. And after he rapes her, she's completely saying no. She's fighting him off. He is forcing himself on her. Next thing you know, she's like, you went on me. She's chasing after this man. And she throws away her marriage, chasing after this man. And and another thing that he likes to do is he likes to put HIV.
Yeah, as a punishment. Yeah, I've heard
women
that too.
And these are the women who can't appreciate the good guy, and the good guy is always like this kind of bland, like, and the bad guy is always, oh, he's bad, but he's the one that has a lot of sexual energy. So I don't understand why black men aren't offended by Tyler Perry films as well. Like, there's been a lot of black feminist critique against his films, and I find it very odd that black men, they're thinking like, yeah, that's what we need these sisters to know, to not be thoughts and to appreciate a good man. But I'm like, but he's playing you too, because he has very narrow definitions of what makes a good black man.
Black man, yep.
You either got swag and you're no good, or you're a good man with no swerve to you. And that's a false dichotomy. He doesn't depict black men complexly either. And I just think that really perpetuates. So yeah, like the normalization, and that's the thing, and it goes to the normalization of rape culture, because there's folks who are watching this and loving it and not interrogating it.
Well, that's also the danger, I think, of crafting a narrative around rape when you're not really equipped to do so. And that's, I think that is the essence of the issue with using rape as a narrative mechanism in the hands of ill-equipped people. Not a point of fate. And I think that's what it is that the fact that you're leaving rape open to interpretation, no.
But that isn't that what it is, right? That's what it is in our courts, open to interpretation. It's what it is in our conversations, right? So everything is open to interpretation. And I think that's why rape culture exists as it does in our society, because it's all open to interpretation. People are being taught about body language, but what does body language mean? Then they're being taught about words, but what do those words mean? And what, and there's so much misinformation and so much, misunderstanding and not enough education happening young enough. One of the things that I think we haven't talked about this yet, but one of the things that's killing me in all of this, I know that a lot of these films and these movies depict older people, but it's the young people that I'm concerned about. And that's not to say that I'm not concerned about older people, but I'm concerned about 14 and 15 and 16 and 17 and 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds that are in high school and college and are raping people because they have no idea what sexual consent is, because they have no idea what their masculinity means, because they have no idea. And I shouldn't just make men the perpetrators of rape, because I know that they're not. But but these are the things that are sort of like coming up inside my mind. Like, how do we have this conversation with young people, right? Because I keep thinking about that redemption that you started talking about, Sophia, right? And you talked about redemption and accountability going hand in hand. And maybe if we can start this practice, these conversations way earlier, when incidents happen, we can give people a chance to be accountable. Right now, who is Nate Parker accountable to? Like that's just a question I'm putting on the table, right? Right now, who is he accountable to? The woman, unfortunately, has passed away. Who is he accountable to? Other victims that he's not affiliated with? He's not accountable to the courts anymore, unfortunately. Should he give a scholarship to her child? My understanding is that she's left with a young child. So like, what would, right now, for someone like Nate Parker, this is the only incidents that we know of, right? Could there be more incidences out there? Maybe. But if we're operating with this one incident, right, what does he have to do?
Well, the concept of restorative justice is that when someone commits a transgression, that transgression hurts the entire community. And that's what when we're talking about rape culture, why do we have this term culture? Because we're trying to get across to people that rape is not this individual thing, that rape is not this thing that happens between two people, that it's institutionalized, normalized, thing. And this is why I kind of disagree with, I don't think most depictions of rape lately in entertainment media is really up for interpretation. I think that the position is very clear. The problem is the position of what they say is rape and what is not rape is problematic. I think the way they define, they're very clear about how they're defining rape, and my issue is the way they're defining rape is a problem. That, like, and the notion that rape is that is under certain circumstances is actually justifiable. That's for me is the problem with most depictions of rape, and using rape as a plot point and as a dramatic, like how many times, and we see it in soap operas a lot. Somebody's on a soap opera long enough, she's gonna get raped multiple times. And so the concept of restorative justice means, like, so maybe Nate Parker's, maybe that woman has died, but whenever, again, and it's hard to talk about it because he won't name what happened.
Right.
But whatever happened, he's at least willing to say it was a mistake and it was wrong and he did not know any better. That's as much as he's willing to say at this point. So restorative justice means, but when, that he didn't just harm her. He harmed her most, but he didn't just harm her. Rape harms the community, and we want to beat back against rape culture. And this is why, like, when we had someone on our Facebook page trying to suggest that, and I totally understand it's very important for survivors to be the leads of this conversation around rape culture overall. But we all should care about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We all, and we do, and that's why we're having this conversation. Yeah. This is only one conversation, and we're only talking about it from the lens of, like, depictions and accountability. When you have an artist that people think is wonderful and they get accused of this heinous thing, is it not upon us? This is the question. This is not, this is what I'm putting out there. And this is how do we defeat rape culture if we have these artists that are behaving in ways that we identify as that is rapist behavior, and yet we still consume their work?
Well, the problem is that that's almost like across the board, right? How many artists haven't actually done prison time for any number of crimes, killing someone, almost killing someone, drug offense, right? So you have all these things. So I think there's like a larger sort of societal issue about while these people may not have moral redemption, they certainly are redeemed in terms of being able to salvage a lot of their career, maybe not all of their career, right? So I think there's a kind of like a sort of like big issue kind of across the board with how we deal with athletes and entertainers and other people when they do make these transgressions that are against the community, right?
But we haven't been able to talk about it.
Right.
We haven't been able to talk about it until the internet.
Right.
And I think at this point, and I bring that up in every show because it really is about that. You have many voices that are now contributing to this problem, and we're trying to resolve it together. And which is why I feel with the Nate Parker situation, Gabrielle Union wrote was it on Huffington Post? She wrote a piece about how she felt, a letter, her own feelings with what had happened, and how she felt about the movie. For me, I don't need to share any details about my own personal life for me to be able to say these things and come up with my own, choices or decisions or whatever. But I think that they're showing us in this particular situation with Nate Parker that they want to do something. It hasn't evolved yet,
Mhm.
but that's what I hear they're trying to do. We don't know what they're going to do. So I am going to stick with them until they piss me off and don't do it the right way. You see what I'm saying? So I have faith that this one particular incident is going to, this is a weird noise.
Yeah, that's like a little scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Not me, but-
I mean, I think,
Linda, I'm open.
Yeah, go ahead,
like
sorry.
I was just gonna say, like Linda, what you just said, like I'm open because of how much he has come since the story became well known. I'm open. I'm open, but until I'm stuck on him still owning what he did, because he's still talking around. For me, when I read it, he's still talking around what he did.
But what do you want him to say?
And that's what perpetuates. And that's what perpetuates rape culture too. It's the silence.
What do you want him to say? He went to court. He did. I'm not defending him, but I need to know from you.
Well, he's saying that he made a mistake. So Nate, what mistake did you make? He said he made a mistake. What is the mistake that you made?
So you wanted to
the problem is,
I do.
but the problem is, the problem is this. The problem is this. Number one, in a court of law, he was acquitted, regardless of how much faith we have in the court system or do not have in the court system. He has been acquitted. So why would he call himself a rapist if he thinks that the court vindicated him in that act?
Because that's two different things. Because I
know, but I'm just saying from his perspective, I feel you, and I know what you want. You want him to say,
I'm just saying, being declared not guilty is not the same thing as being innocent.
No. Girl, you're preaching to the choir here. We know that. You know that. I know that. We all know that, right? However, if I kill somebody, right, and I get acquitted of that murder, I'm not gonna go around telling people that I'm a murderer. It's just not going to happen.
Well, then that's not. Then that's not restorative justice.
It's not restorative justice. It's not restorative justice, and I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is if we're, of course, it's self. Yeah, but come on, we're talking about human beings.
I want to jump in really quickly.
And human beings self-preserve.
I'm not saying that I don't get what he's doing.
No, I know.
It's just that I'm demanding more of him.
Of course,
if he wants us to believe that. That's what it means. If he wants me to believe that he recognizes that he did something wrong and that he wants to make it right, then the first thing you need to do is the first part of making it's like trying to make right to somebody without even saying that you did anything wrong. Like, I don't.
Sophia, you're assuming that what he should apologize for is rape. He may very well.
I don't know what it is, but that's what I don't. I don't know. I need to know what he said. I had sex with her. Is he saying? Because this is what I think. This is only speculation, right? I had sex with her when she couldn't say yes, and I did not know at the time it was rape. But I know now that that's rape, or whatever it is. But that's the problem.
Listen,
I would have to go back. I would have to go back to that Ebony interview, because I thought that what he was doing in that interview was saying, I didn't know that my actions equaled this.
Well,
that's what
but he never says that. He's
okay. I'd have to go back and read it.
That's my problem.
Okay,
he never says that.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong. I don't want
you. My whole point is
think that I'm not. That I know that what I'm asking of is a fucking lie. I know it, and I'm still asking it. I know it's a lie, and I'm still asking.
Yeah.
But not only that, what we're failing to address is there was a moment of justice. It happened. There was a whole trial. He was acquitted. I'm fully saying I know that I'm judge, jury, and executioner in a public court of opinion. But everything else, the man doesn't have to make amends. The man doesn't have to donate $1. The man is not a rapist in the eyes of the law and in the eyes of society.
Brock Turner, on the other hand,
can't say in the eyes of society. Maybe in the eyes of the law, but some people believe
in the eyes of the law. But the thing is, people. Here's the thing, though. we're getting into a tricky place because people can believe whatever they want to be, whatever they want to believe, whether they have evidence to believe it or no evidence to believe it, right? So are we saying that we're trying to hold him up to a societal standard because people have chosen to believe certain things about what happened in that room that night or certain things about what went on after that? That's a little bit of murky territory. What I think he could do, in light of the fact that the woman has passed on and he cannot necessarily make specific amends to her, and we don't know, right? We don't know if he ever spoke to her privately after that. We have no idea. Maybe not. He transferred to another school. I have no clue, right? But
he admits that he never gave, once he was acquitted, he never gave it a second thought.
Well, but he was also, he admits that. Well, but we don't know. Well, based on the interview that he gave,
he said that.
Based on the interview that he gave, I do believe that he felt justified in that court outcome. I do believe that he moved on with his life like I would expect anybody to do if they are acquitted of a crime. You know, whether they have remorse later on or not, I don't know. I do know that he spoke to his daughter about it and he talked about it. So clearly it wasn't that he wrote it off completely, but, you know, so there's that. The other thing is that someone in Nate Parker's shoes, who technically doesn't have to admit to having raped anybody,
right?
Who technically he doesn't. No longer has a specific person to make amends to, can still positively contribute to some levels of restorative justice in terms of the community. So something that I had posted on the chat, and I think I posted somewhere in my Facebook, is I would love to see him start talking to young people about this. Maybe, I don't know about volunteering, because I know a lot of the shelters or places where women who've experienced this seek support are very private. But making donations to organizations that specifically work with victims of rape and sexual assault, right? So I think that there are some things that he
needs to talk to men. He needs to talk to boys and
exactly.
Talk, you know,
No, that's exactly my point. Like, sit down and talk to people. You know, I remember, like, you know, my nephew a couple of years ago, before he got into college, like, a father of one of his really close friends, like, sat all those guys down, all his little, like, football group. He sat them down and, like, told them what's what. I heard this from my mom, that, like, you know, Julian came home with, like, this conversation, you know, and I agree with you completely. Mentor young men. Let's start. You are now starting to learn something, and that this moment of learning for Nate Parker, I think, is a critical moment for him to start the conversation with young men, because look at me, I'm learning. Look at this curve I'm on, right? And start to bring people into the fold with him, so that hopefully, right, other young men don't make the mistakes that he has made, or they've learned, you know, and, you know, by making the mistake, I mean, I don't want to trivialize it, but that they don't go down the path he went down with no guidance about what it means to engage in a sexual relationship with any woman, right? And I think there's things he could do.
A big factor in the perpetuation of,
actually, is the fact that he was acquitted.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of, at this point, it's not even about legality anymore, about can he be retried, would he double jeopardy? It's really not about that.
That's not even on the table.
My appeal is to women and people who are against rape culture to make a personal decision on the fact that he is a rapist, at least if you believe in your heart that he's a rapist, then no more equivocation about whether he's worthy or his art is worthy. That's where I have a problem with. Listen, the legalities of it, he got away with it. End of story. Freaking sense that it could happen. But I want people of conscience to go, as much as that may be true, I will no longer equivocate about whether he's a good person or not. He is not.
So you're saying you want people just to be consistent, that whatever they stand on, that they be
consistent. Not justify or reward his art or his trajectory as an artist.
You're saying what you're demanding is that people believe what they're going to believe, but they be consistent.
Yes.
In relation to his work.
Yes.
So if you believe he's a rapist, you should not go see it. If you don't believe he's a rapist, then go see his film.
I'm saying believe he's a rapist because he was accused of rape.
Or people can make the decision, I believe he's a rapist, but I'm going to support this film anyway. I mean, I think the point is that people need to stand by whatever their conviction is, right?
I want to make it really clear. I'm not upset with anybody who wants to go see the film because this is very, I just think it's important for to say that because folks have to make their own. Folks have to make their own decisions.
It's not about that, and I don't think I don't think judging each other or other people for the choice that they make in that is the way to go to have productive conversation about this. Like I'll be honest, I listen to an R. Kelly song every once in a while. Okay,
I can't.
It's hard. And I go through it and I give myself a guilt trip.
You brought that up the other day on the radio.
I give myself a guilt trip.
Few lyrics of Bump and Grind, and you know what? I got so turned off.
And just also, it just so happens that today, Bill Cosby's sexual assault trial, a date was set for, I think it's June 2017. He's gonna go on trial, and I think I forgot which magazine. I think it's the New Yorker, or I'm not too sure, but they have like a whole timeline of like his assaults and how they span decades and they cross state lines, and it's really something else. One thing that I want to put out here that is really important is like a big thing that we're going to have to, as a society, be better about in defeating rape culture is we need to teach boys and men not to rape instead of teaching girls and women don't get raped.
But they have to know what that is.
Right. They have to know what
we gotta stop using terms and going around in circles and say exactly what it is. What is rape?
Right. I think
and rape is yes means yes.
Okay.
Yes means yes.
Keep in mind that we gotta talk about marshmallow.
No, you didn't. Let's move on because this is interesting, right? And it's a very interesting, right? Because Lena Dunham has gone on record as being a survivor of sexual assault. For someone who calls herself an anti-rape advocate, she really engages in a lot of pro-rape rhetoric and behavior. And most recently with what she did to Odell Beckham Jr. and Michael B. Jordan. It's interesting because she apologized to Odell and didn't say anything about Michael B. Jordan when Michael B. Jordan was the one that said that I will grind on him when I'm a married grandma because that's what straight women do. And I'm like, my goodness, if this rhetoric came out of a man's mouth, we'd be like, yo, that's rapey. No. And she does it, and she thinks it's okay. And she's supposed to be a feminist.
It's funny because this conversation is really about privilege. Male privilege versus white privilege.
Yes.
It's the same shit.
Yep.
And I read the excerpts in one of the articles and how she was talking to Amy Schumer in the
and Amy Schumer's another one who says a lot of really messed up stuff.
I don't think she has anything. She hasn't done anything recently. The one thing she did was the. Yeah,
she just got shouted out all over the internet for saying that men of color are more likely to holler at women on the street or something like that. A tweet that she posted that she deleted real fast. You got to keep up with the internet.
With Lena Dunham, though, the thing that gets me about the whole piece is when she says the vibe was very much like, do I want to fuck it? Is it wearing it's wearing a tuxedo. She created this whole dialogue because she wants to be funny. Came off stupid. But that whole idea that the vibe was very much she wrote the whole scene.
Yeah.
None of that shit happened.
She projected her own insecurities onto him. And the thing that really and no one has talked about this yet. Can we break down what she said about him, because there's been wonderful pieces out there about how about this fits into the historical legacy of white women you know, of black men being hypersexual
Right.
and wanting to rape white women and how this fits in white women as being virtuous and whatever. And also there were other folks, I wish I just said, there were other folks who were talking about how her and Amy Schumer want to exploit a body positivity that was meant to bolster, you know, women who are not, whose beauty is not validated in our culture, fat women, which neither of those two really are, black women in particular, women of color, and also women with disabilities. And they're like, and they're just trying to hijack, right? So we have to send the pieces out for folks. But the other thing, and just so there's a historical legacy, and I thought it was really interesting. But the other thing that really struck me when I went back to look at her remarks again was how she referred to herself as an it.
Yep.
As a
right?
what?
And as an it. So she like neutered herself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And saying that he neutered her
Yes.
and still wanted to fuck her. Like, do I want to fuck it?
That and that's
so,
yep.
that he is
yep.
so,
and that for me is so
problematic. He is so hypersexual that I'm an inanimate object to him, and he's still wondering if he wants to fuck me. And he's decided, well, I'm not the right shape. I'm an it. I'm a dog. I'm a marshmallow. I'm an it. But I still might want to fuck it if it was a different shape. Like, that's how bad. Like, no one has spelled that out.
Right.
You saying that he wanted to fuck you, that he was still thinking about maybe fucking you, even though you're a thing.
And that's how black men think, right? Wow. That's how black men think. Women are just objects. They're just it to them.
But she's also like that as a white woman, him being a black man, he should want her because she's a white woman. Oh,
we saw that. No. Yeah. That was from miles away.
That's the other, like, this.
Right.
I mean, this shit got more layers than baklava.
Yeah.
Like, this whole little thing. And then the other thing that she did, she never apologized to Michael B. Jordan when she doubled down on that. What she did was they removed that line from the interview, which I thought was very interesting, which I think is kind of fucked up. Right? You say you don't apologize to him, you remove the line. Instead of apologizing to him as well, because that's also what added, you know, fuckery to what she did, because this wasn't just one black man that she was talking about. She was talking about another black man. Like, she was like on this black man's rant. You know, she didn't say this about a white guy. Oh, and it's Odell Beckham. She said, "Oh, it's about athletes." No, you're only talking about black men because Michael B. Jordan is not an athlete. Right? He's an actor. And you said him, and you're talking about how and what's this, and what does this mean? And so Maria, you had sent out the piece where you said that basically, and it's funny because when I went to search her name with the term "fuckboy," there are people who've been saying this about her for years. Now, one thing I want to throw out here. I struggle with the term fuckboy.
Me too.
I'm trying not to use it anymore.
It's like butthurt.
I tend to refer to my ex-boyfriend as one because I understand how people are using it in the current lexicon. The behavior that it's calling out is definitely behavior that Lena Dunham. There's this whole thing like, I'm a good guy, and meanwhile you're not. You're kind of sinister. You're kind of
conniving.
You're dangerous, conniving, manipulative, but just for folks to know that, you know, and there's some debate about this, but some folks have argued that, well, the term fuckboy, interestingly enough, is about prison rape. So here we are talking about rape culture. Here we are talking, a fuckboy is the guy in prison that gets passed around by the men who are strong enough to dominate him. So, and of course, language evolves, and maybe that's not what people. I think a lot of people who use the term have no idea that that's its origins.
Right.
Language does change, and words do change meaning. But I find that very interesting that she is behaving in this way, and it's something that is actually linked to rape culture, specifically prison rape. And let me tell you, if there's one real big area of rape culture that we have a hard time talking about and like to sweep under the rug, it's the rape in prison, especially men on men. We try to act like, well, that's what they got. We make a lot of jokes about that. Even people who are supposed to be progressive make a lot of jokes about it. Like
don't drop the soap, right?
Yeah, and I hope that's what you get. You're gonna be somebody's bitch. And, you know,
well, that's always the threat, right? About going to prison, that you're gonna be someone's bitch, or that you're gonna, whatever. Yep.
So we really have to just like sweep that out of our lexicon if we're gonna say that we are people that want to be, we want to be evolved and we want to eradicate this culture, then rape is rape no matter where it is, and it's not okay because you're in prison.
Also, I'd like to take it back to Lena Dunham for a second.
Yes, please. Yeah, I just have to make that connection though. But I get all I should say is the behavior that they're calling out is absolutely on point. I hope that we come up with a better word.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Maria. Go ahead, Maria.
No, what I was going to say is I think one of my biggest issues is the fact that she assumed a hypersexualized de facto state for a black man. If a man sat at a table with a woman and go, I was sitting right there, and she didn't even have the nerve to like purr at me like a kitten. Why should I purr like a kitten in sexual heat every time a man sits next to me? If it was a reversal, I would be livid. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to like jump in heat like a cat?
Well, this is layered. This is layered because it's not only because he's a black man, it's also because she's a white woman. Because this is the woman who made the joke. I'm hot. I would be hot in Detroit. Lena Dunham has said that.
Let me just jump in.
They're two sides of the same coin.
And that's also really kind of racist because what she's saying is, if I can't snag a Bradley Cooper, I sure as hell should be able to snag a Michael B. Jordan. They're already hot for us to begin with.
The nerve.
Yeah, and that's the part.
But that's her narcissism, right? That's her hubris. That even this marshmallow should be able to attract at least the wanton desires of the lowly black man.
Viv said she would not be hot in Detroit. I agree with you, Viv.
But she said that. That's the kind of. She has a history of making these kinds of jokes. This is
she
not
said something about a dream she had.
She's self-deprecating. The problem with her.
But this is not a one-time faux pas.
Her narcissism is rooted in.
Look, let me say this. I don't think where is the woman that has not sat next to a very attractive man and wondered if she stood a chance.
Right.
And we've all I've had those insecurities. I've sat there and I've felt like I'm not even gonna talk to him. Should I bother? Should I try? Am in the league? There's that supermodel type over there. He'd rather talk to her. I'm not gonna act like, what she ultimately, what she thought she was trying to do is something that is very relatable. That's what. Why the fuck did she have to take it where she took it? Right? That's privilege, like Linda said.
Because she had to be the diva anyway.
Right.
Like, she needed to put herself on a pedestal, even though she was dissed, or she thought she was dissed.
She thought she was dissed,
even noticing.
What's fortunate to me? I actually don't get mad, but I really like girls. I tell me that.
Oh my God!
I really like that girl.
That's it, Maria. You're done.
I'm gonna get a real kindergarten now. I ain't your friend no more. Nah.
That's what makes us special. Hello.
And you know what the funny thing is? One of the things that I really like, being sort of a lumpy but cute person myself, was like, you know what? She's like loving herself. That's awesome.
She does love herself.
No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't.
She's got a weird thing. It's like she's got the narcissism, but then it's also self-deprecating. So she makes herself.
Woody Allen.
She uses her. She thinks she's being like super smart and advanced when she uses what she perceives as her vulnerabilities. Exactly. She's using what she perceives her vulnerabilities to be as the entryway into whatever she's doing. So you know what? I'm a chubby girl, so I'm going to show myself naked on my show in every episode. Why? Because everyone should have to look at a chubby girl's body, right? So I don't know what all this sound is.
And then right away,
there's so much sound that came out of nowhere.
Somebody has the video on.
There it is.
Okay, there you go.
What happened?
We don't know.
The video was on.
Okay.
Yeah, but listen, you know, I got to a point where she was taking off her clothes every episode just to take her clothes off.
Yep.
Just to do it. Listen, Kim Kardashian, I can look at. I get tired of that shit too. So I'm going to get tired of your marshmallow ass if you keep trying to take your clothes off.
Well, the thing is, why are you doing that? And that's a question. And what pisses me off is that that's a question, a legit question that an interviewer asked her, and she was with Judd Apatow at the time. And Judd Apatow threw a fit at this interviewer, calling her all kinds of names because, you know, clearly she wasn't a feminist if she couldn't appreciate that Lena Dunham was willing to be vulnerable in this way and blah-de-da. Like, it doesn't take
actress take her shit off in
every episode.
Let a black actress.
Well, you know what they said? You know what they said about Halle Berry? That the only, and this is a terrible thing, but the commentary after she won her Oscar was that she only won it in that role because she went full frontal on the boobs. You know what I'm saying? So this is what happens to women of color. It is, you know.
When you see people who have won awards, women,
a
lot of it includes nudity.
You know, so while she wants to believe in her mind that she's championing the cause of women of different shapes and sizes by being naked, this is all about people looking at her body. This is, and that's where the narcissism comes in. She wants people to look at her body, and she's just using this idea, which is a shame because, you know, in her, I mean, I don't know. It's a shame because there are a lot of people who struggle. And we know that this is a very like appearance-oriented society. People have done studies on how people get hired based on what they look like and how they dress. But I agree. I
worked with a girl, and she back in the day in brokerage, and Shearson Lehman, and she was a Harvard grad. I was a secretary, white girl. We were kind of close in age. We were having a conversation. This girl thought she was it. But we had a fun time in the office. We sort of all joked the same way, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We had this talk one day, and she, out of the clear blue, said she was from Boston. She said, "I'm a wasp." Isn't that what everybody wants to be? You don't have to, and that's how I feel Lena Dunham is. It's that no matter what, man, you think you're the shit, but for the wrong reasons. And that's what gets under my skin. And this chick, you know, I had to work with her after that. But I felt so differently, you know, and I didn't know, and I didn't want to start shit. I didn't want to lose my job, and you have to keep going with it. Boy, did she turn me on. And I hate, you know, it just gets under my skin. I can't.
And the problem with Lena Dunham is that she's built up such a you know support network for herself that people will continue to support her in everything she does and like completely overlook her racism, her classism, and all of the other things that come up in her behavior, you know. And I think, and honestly, like what pisses me off most about the whole thing is I know she kind of like wrote a little line about the violence of la-di-da, but I'm like, no, girl, I don't think that you know
that was
how
a performance.
many men have died or been killed or not have
I agree
been
with you, Siri.
castrated, been beaten. Like, you have no clue. You haven't looked at a picture of Emmett Till recently. Like, you have no fucking clue, girl. And
I
that's
felt
what
like that
pissed me
apology was a
off.
performance. I agree
Oh
with
my
you, Siri.
God.
Because
Fuck you.
how could she
Sorry. Oh my God, I'm so
apologize?
sorry.
When you meant
No,
Siri,
and you tell us not to
Siri
curse.
y'all got to know
I'm
when
so
you make
sorry.
Siri curse.
I was in my feels just now.
Because Siri doesn't curse.
He did it like the Chucky doll. Just
when she had that line in there, and I would never. When she had that line in her apology, well, I would never intentionally contribute to this long history of white women lying on black women or whatever.
She doesn't know.
You know, I was like, I want to believe you, but I don't. I just feel like you are parroting back the teaching that you got on Twitter, right? Someone was kind enough to educate your ass, because they didn't have to do that. They could have just dragged you, rightfully so. And you're just parroting it back because you want it to go away. You just want it to go away. And that's not how this works. Because again, the hubris, like when you tagged her, Siri, on our flyer, and she's like, you removed me from the dialogue. And it's so funny because when I tweeted that out, folks started to say, she must have written Taylor Swift's Exclude Me from the Narrative. She's must have been a ghostwriter, because it's the same thing, right? And I was just like, if you had really if you had really read any of the pieces of, you know, you would not be sitting here having an issue with us discussing what you did in this context of rape culture. So you have not learned anything. So that line in your apology was just you parroting the rhetoric that you had become exposed to, in the hopes that would sweep it on the rug and make it go away. Well, mama, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't go away because you are no longer, because you can no longer stomach the discomfort that your own fuckery created.
But can I say something really, it's going to be a little confrontational and actually towards us. Okay. I say this with love and respect. But I want to just highlight the difference of how we're dragging Lena and the pains that we went through to evaluate Nate Parker. Lena actually apologized. She actually apologized. She stated it specifically, her crime, which you took Nate Parker to task for not specifying. She specified her crime. She said it from the heart. And look at the way we're dragging her and her work and her art in a way that we didn't with Nate Parker. Nate Parker, we are bending over backwards to vilify.
Oh, no. Okay, but wait. Lena has a history. Nate Parker's new to me.
Nate has a rape charge.
No, but Lena has a. I don't think it's a little different in terms of what we're talking about, though.
What you know what I think might be part of it, and I think that's a fair point, and we should grapple with it. I think what's at play here is exactly what you know, Siri had brought up about wanting to be sensitive and understanding the complex history of black men being erroneously charged and murdered over sexually violating white women.
Yeah, but
whether they did it or not.
But Siri also
whether they did it or not, and I'm not articulating it well, but I have a feeling that might be what's at play here.
Well,
and
but
I also want to say I'll tell you what's we're also struggling with Nate Parker is because of the importance of his film. If Nate Parker had created, you know, fucking Soul Plane,
that's what I was saying. Yep. No one would care. Yep.
That's a different conversation.
He was acquitted, right? He was acquitted.
Hold on.
There's a history of black men being falsely accused, and he was acquitted, and he made this film that is really radical for the entertainment industry to get behind, and now it's being threatened.
I'll speak to Maria's point. Because I'm pretty firm on where I stand.
But hold on. Let me just say this, Siri.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
One of the other things that you asked for, and you kind of not advocated, but you kind of said that it would be nice for Nate is, or at least to keep in mind, is that people should be allowed the room for growth.
Yes.
And yet, why is it not possible that Lena actually did grow from this experience? No, hold on a second. I get it. Listen, I'm not advocating for But then what it really comes down to is what we wish for Nate is important because we like what he created versus I don't really give a shit about Lena, or does she have an opportunity for growth, or does she did actually apologize.
I also think that there's a possibility that there's also more of affinity toward Nate being a man of color.
Yes.
That's
my point
exactly. What the fuck has Lena Dunham done for me?
Let me tell you something.
As a white feminist, she has not really done much for me. She's thrown us under the bus all the time.
That's exactly my point. I will tell you right now, and I have zero qualms about this. I will spend more time investigating, challenging, considering, trying to give benefits of the doubt, give room, space for growth when it comes to people that I consider my people than when it comes to people that I don't. And I'll be very honest, if we're talking about the Hollywood game, Lena Dunham is going to survive and she's going to be just fine.
She's going to be all right.
You know, whereas, and maybe we'll put Nate Parker to the side because I think, you know, he's still a controversial figure. Right. However, people of color in the industry are not afforded that many opportunities to survive and bounce back and still have careers. And so yes, so for that reason alone, and you know, listen, my feminist card is green right now. It doesn't, you know, I don't think I'm on any team, but you know,
there's a lot of different types of feminism.
I am okay with
Lena Dunham's
dragging Lena Dunham. And you're right. You're absolutely right. She might have some time to grow. Maybe she will. I don't believe it just yet, but maybe with time, some other things will manifest. However, I don't think that Lena Dunham is about me or my community as much as I think Nate Parker, even with that rape incident, it, you know, is and could be for my community. And that's where the intersection comes in, right? Because he's yes, he represents the masculine, the male, the masculine, but he also represents people of color. He also represents
I will give him
things.
this.
You know, and so
I'm
okay with that. Like I'm personally okay with that. And that maybe that makes me a bad feminist, maybe it doesn't, but I'm okay with that because for me, you know, I'm invested in Nate Parker's survival in that he has the potential to do more for people of color in Hollywood than Lena Dunham will ever think about doing, than what is even on her agenda.
I will go with the Siri on this. I may not be ready right now. Like my position right now is I am not going to support Birth of a Nation because I need more from Nate. Right?
Yeah.
But,
there with you.
I will not. But he is at least grappling with gender.
Right.
He says that in that interview. He's like, I am grappling with toxic masculinity. That even said that, and male privilege. And I never thought about these things. And Brittany Daniel in the interview was pushing him like, yeah, you know, you're all about race, but we need you to be about gender. And he's like, I get that now. I see that now. Lena Dunham don't give a fuck about race.
Right.
And her feminism does not give a fuck about us. She is that capital W, white, capital F, feminism, TM trademark. She's about her, Amy Schumer. They're not for us.
Right.
They're not for us. These are the type of people that you say something about race and they're like, but all women. What about all women? These are the all women matters equivalent.
Yeah. But I want to just point out really quickly the insidiousness of rape culture. In that, and I say this with love and respect and nothing but that spirit.
We got it.
But what you just said, what you just advocated for was the potential of Nate Parker for a community. The same way that the judge advocated for the potential of Brock Turner for swimming. And I say that with love and respect.
Yeah.
That's good.
But this is part of the conversation. This is why we're doing this, right? We're doing this so that we can explore all those finer points. Like Maria, I would have never thought about, although I haven't changed my position, but it would have never come up from my own thinking to question that we are giving one person room for growth and not giving it to the other person, and to
But
have
Brock
us
Turner,
explore
I
why
just
we're
feel like
doing that, you know?
Brock Turner was convicted
He
and
was
was never
convicted.
and was out in 3 months, and the headlines still won't call. He's a convicted rapist, and they're still referring
And they still
to
won't
him
call him a
as
convicted rapist. Yeah.
Stanford swimmer Brock
Right.
Turner.
Right. Right. Right.
Well, you know,
Meanwhile, he's
Right.
convicted.
And that's true. And those are
And he
choice
did 3
words,
months.
right?
How do you?
Right.
How do you? And when you look at
Right.
the testimony that
Yeah.
victim gave
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
case, and he walks out in 3
Yeah.
months because jail would just be too tough for him. That
Yeah.
would never happen
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
black man.
Yeah. Meanwhile, another African American athlete was just convicted of rape, 15 years, right?
As he should have been.
And I agree, right? I agree. If that's the maximum sentence or within the range of the sentence for that crime, then yes, everyone should be sentenced accordingly, right? But what we're dealing with is we're dealing with socioeconomic agency, we're dealing with race, we're dealing with gender, right? We're dealing with all these things that you know can impede justice, right? And all of these things that are affecting our ability to really deal with what rape culture is. And I'm sorry, Lena Dunham, like I understand that you want it to be taken out of the conversation, but you're a perpetrator of the culture when you behave in this way, right? She may not want to hear those terms, that may not work for her feminist narrative, but you perpetrate the culture this way, the same way that women who support patriarchal structures you're not a feminist. If you are in support of patriarchal structures, I have a hard time buying you as a feminist. And Lena Dunham, when you use language that would constitute rapist ideology, right? Or like Sophia said, well, we would consider rapey if we heard that in a song lyric by a man, or if we heard saw it in some other context by a man. Because is that not what men do on the street that women are critical of right now? Oh, you look good, ma. Come and talk to me, ma. La di da di da, ma. Right? We're critical of that.
Saying that you're gonna dance up on somebody without his permission. You're gonna grind on somebody without his permission.
We're critical of that when it's a when we're seeing it come down from men. But here's a woman who has sort of not done the reverse of that, but put herself in that position where she was never in to begin with, and then sort of want to apologize for it later on, and the reality is that Odell, he's a kid. How old is he? How old is that guy? He's like
young.
22.
I think he's young.
He's a freaking kid. You don't even know him. Like it just is so bad. It's so bad, and it makes. And that's one of the things that complicates our ability to talk about rape culture, excuse me, because we assume that, or we want to believe that women who are at the vanguard of this third wave of the feminist movement are doing right by us. And when things like this happen, they're really not. They're really not. All she's doing is going back to the stigma of black men as being, sexual beasts in nature who only want to objectify women. And then there's the narcissistic aspect of like, well, why didn't he objectify me? Well, what the fuck? Aren't we moving against objectification? But now you're mad because he didn't objectify you. And this is all funny because you're Lena Dunham. Like,
I just feel that Lena Dunham repeatedly, and this is beyond even matters of rape and consent. Just repeatedly, when you look at her humor and some of the things that she thinks, her feminism to me comes off as like you just want the right as a woman to do some of the same fuckery that men do.
And that's not feminism. That's not feminism. And that's the problem that we're having is that
I want to do the same. There's some shitty shit that men do that I want to be able to do too. And I'm not rocking with it.
Exactly.
It's not a feminist.
Exactly right.
But it's also possible, guys, that maybe at the intersection of feminism and race, everybody picks their own race. Because we just admitted as much on our end, and she might be very well be doing the same on hers.
Wait, say that again. Sorry, say that again.
I mean, I don't think we might be saying it in this instance. I don't think we can say that just because we're saying it in. I mean, I own it. I'm saying it in this instance. But I also feel there's a lot more going on in this particular instance.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't blanketly say that that's the way I feel across the board, because there's one thing that came out that I was not rocking with when the allegations against Nate were made public was people were trying to say, well, what do you expect? The so-called victim was white. And I'm like, that shit is irrelevant. So in that instance, I wasn't trying to, race was not trumping gender for me. Because for me, it's like the fact that his wife is white, the fact that the victim was white does not matter. The fact is that he was accused of raping someone. So while I will say that, yes, I will own what you called out, that we're giving him there's more of a compassion and an openness and a willingness, but I'm not going to say that means that race is going to trump gender for me all the time. And that in this particular case, there's a lot of stuff going on here in this case besides, the race gender conversation. There's a lot of.
I mean, I think too, and you might have been talking about this.
Maria. I'm
not of course.
You're complicating our thinking. I think
no, but I think in that, I agree too, and I think that's what needs to happen. But yeah, I mean, I think if we were discussing two men, I think if we were discussing two women, I think all those things would sort of change and shape how we have the discussion. I just think in this particular instance, we're talking about a Black man who is a perpetrator of rape violence against a woman. And we're talking about a white woman who asserted her privilege in a way that contributes to rape culture. So, there's sort of different ways that we're trying to blend these two conversations. And I think that's part of it. But I think we should be questioning ourselves, and we should be challenging ourselves to think, beyond whatever we're individually bringing to this conversation. I'm cool with that.
What time is it?
It's 9:56.
You want to let folks see Queen Sugar in Atlanta? Do you want to make one last point, Maria?
No, just how incredibly proud I am of being able to have this conversation, and that you're the kind of women that are willing to look at it, because I think the intent with which we started this whole conversation is, how do we disassemble rape culture? And I think ultimately the answer is what we exemplified ourselves. You got to look at your own actions, question yourself, and be really bold and unfettered in it. And so that's all I wanted to say. It's just that this was great.
That's a great thing to end on. I mean, it's not the end of the conversation. No. This is ongoing. And again, we only looked at this from that angle because we were talking about Hollywood and how being in this industry, how this industry and the way it is contributes to this problem. But rape culture is a culture. So this problem is everywhere. It's in our government. It's in our schools. It's in our hospitals. It's in our churches and synagogues. And so it's a culture that we have to dismantle. And we're only even just scratching the surface by even looking at the role that entertainment plays in it. So we're hoping that everybody will continue the conversation on your own, on our Facebook page. This is not the end of it. And so we want to let people go, even though we would love to go on, and we can, because, Ava DuVernay, if there's one person that we don't have any problem supporting unilaterally, is going to be Ava DuVernay's Queen Sugar. And we wanted to sign out by saying that if anybody out there is wondering if there's one thing that the four of us unanimously agree upon, is that we back Cap. So we're down for Cap.
Yes, we back Cap.
So on that note, have a good night. Thank you for checking us out again. Watch the replay. Keep the conversation going. Share the link and like the Latinas Chat Media page, so that you can stay on top of our next chat. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night. Broadcast. Bye, Facebook.